I can't believe I'm saying this, I don't hate the narration here.
Power can cause or be results of
okay, I think my thoughts on the narration are getting more clear. I like when the narration is like a conversation, real time. I think that's interesting. When it's just exposition, I'm less interested.
Ingrained in the Bureau's DNA.
Oh, look at this place. Where am I?
For example, like that right there, I didn't need to hear, look at this place, where am I? Because I'm already wondering, look at this place, where are we? You know?
It's the dead man. Right after the pyramid spoke to me, and it was just noise, and I understood every word.
You see, I feel... okay.
This gun's alive. You know what? I'm happy. Happy to be here.
Okay, so I really think the narration...
Things have quieted down outside.
There's some really, really cool moments, right? And I think just... And this usually is the problem with the narration. It's using... It's telling us things on the nose that we don't need to be told, right? It's cooler. It's much more fun to, like, figure out, like, oh my gosh, we just heard the dead man's thoughts. Imagine if, like, after the janitor read our thoughts earlier, if she was like, did he just read my thoughts? Instead, we were like, wait, did he just read our thoughts? Us as the audience, right? And that was more of a memorable moment.
I've been looking for this place for a long time. That's enough. Maybe that's too much already. I can't tell her about Dylan and the rest yet.
Okay, I actually want to... Okay. Actually, this is one of the times where I kind of am enjoying the narration, because it feels more like a stylistic choice, and it's not always telling us just stuff that we already see, right? That we can already tell. There are a few times where it's a little too much or a little bit on the nose, but in the times where it feels like we're kind of listening to an audiobook of a novel, right? And just giving us more insight into her thoughts and how she will go about the situation that we might not be able to catch just from looking at the scene without those thoughts. I actually find it to be very interesting and enthralling. I am enjoying the parts where she's treating it as a conversation between herself and you being myself, or us as the audience, as the player, right? I love that we are incorporated into the plot somehow. We don't know exactly how yet. And I like when she adds these little stylistic moments, or these little things that give us a sense of her voice as a character, right? So, should I lie? And then she doesn't lie, and she's like, oh, I should have lied, right? Or right here, she's giving information, right? Then there's really quick exposition, right? But then, right after that, she's like, and that's enough. That's all I will say. And it kind of distracts us from the fact that that line in between is there for exposition, because we are more focused on the fact that, like, oh, she is being cautious about the amount of information she gives away to another character, and that in itself tells us about the character, right? Because we don't have all of the information that she has, and so we won't be aware if she's withholding information. So if she tells us that she's withholding some information, then that, or if we are signaled to the idea that she is withholding information, that tells us that she's cautious, right? That tells us more about her character, and we can. It's a fun way to learn about the character, you know. I am okay. / I am enjoying the narration in this game so far.
I said I should find it. It's another object of power, like the gun, an old Bakelite telephone, a direct line of communication between.
However, I will say that I'm kind of zoning out during this conversation.
Clearly through that. I mean, Trench has years and years of experience. He might know how to destroy the hiss.
Where is the hotline?
It's kept in the communications department through the mailroom. It's part of this sector, so we can access it even with the lockdown in place.
Oh, stuff I have to remember. Communications, broom,
okay.
I forgot it already.
That's my next stop.
Something mailroom.
That's Tomasi's department. He's the head of communications. I don't think he had an HRA.
Too much info. Too much info.
Earlier. Keep an eye out.
I'm not remembering any of this. Now I kind of wish there was the narration there, because it allowed us to die. Wait a second. Let's talk about that. That was really cool. That was really interesting, right? So let's talk about what we just noticed. So in the scene before, right, the stylistic usage, the stylistic narration allowed us to digest the very obvious exposition, right? But the second they removed it, it was just paragraphs of information in the conversation that I zoned out from really quick because nobody enjoys an info dump, right? And I think that's really cool. And I think that in itself highlights how the narration can be used because if in that conversation we kept that dynamic of getting a little bit of information and then hearing what she will do with that information or how she feels about the information or something that allows us a moment to digest that piece of the conversation, then there's a chance that we'd be able to retain a lot more of that. But all I know, I don't remember any of the conversation except that I got to go somewhere and there's a person in that somewhere, right? Whereas what I do remember from the moments where she was using the stylistic narration is that the burrow had some kind of effect on her when she was really young, and she's been looking for this place ever since. And we can see the effects of the stylistic narration in real time. It's happening like as we play. Like it's insane. It's insane. It's like, oh my gosh. Literally, because I'm sorry, I'm more in awe at the fact that it happened right after each other. We saw an instance in which narration allowed us to digest the information so much more efficiently, right? And then when they removed the narration, just how I retained none of what was said after that. What we learned today was that narration can be really cool if it's stylized, right? And if it serves more purposes than just info dumping. Right? Because nobody enjoys an exposition dump, and we've seen it in this game as well, right? When you're just given loads and loads and loads of information all at once, you're going to zone out, right? Or at least I will. However, the game does this really cool thing where at the same time she's kind of having conversations with us, and that's nothing new. You'll see stuff like that in the show You. But what's really cool here is that we don't necessarily know it yet. We actually have some kind of role in the plot, right? She keeps referring to us as something that she can tell other people about. And I think that's a nice little touch. It keeps us engaged, and it has us wondering what could she be referring to. So it has us wanting to play more. I caught a J stream. Hey, thank you so much for being here, 6 foot. But yeah, it is interesting. And so in the moments where they're having conversations that provide a lot of important information, having her jump in with her stylized narration. I say stylized because it's not just like info. You'll get a sense of her attitude and her voice in those little moments, right? And throwing those, like kind of sprinkling them across these wider conversations allows us to digest the information better because it makes each important piece have some kind of fun thought to it, right? And it also gives us more info about her character, right? Earlier, one good example was when she said, okay, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to tell her of my situation, right? And so we're like, oh, okay, she's daring and she's willing to be upfront about something. She gives a little bit of information that we catch, that we digest because we're like, okay, what's she going to divulge? And then she says, and that's enough. The info we get from that is, oh, she's upfront, but she is still cautious and not completely naive. And that's just really cool. It's really cool. The narration serves more of a purpose than just to throw info at us, right? We're learning about the character, how they act and how they respond to certain situations and how they go about certain situations.